4th and goal to go to 2. 34 seconds left to go in the ball game. This is the play right now. Takes the snap. Targeted goes in. Targeted all alone. And the quarterback keeps. Wow, what a call. Nobody touched him.
Here is Jeff, the host of the Gridiron.
This is something that Plaxico Burress had talked about. Chimes in on the Waller trade. Now, this was something that somebody else had brought up as well, too, right? Something that Plaxico kind of seems to think that, might have happened with Waller, right? Quite a possibility here that, he just may not have wanted to play for the Giants. Now, you got to give Waller a lot of credit. While he was here, the things he said, all those, didn't sound anything was bad, wrong. Anything he said to reporters or all like that or whatever, at the time he was here, right? Now, of course, he was on somebody's podcast and he was complaining that he was like in the backfield. He didn't say this while he was with the Giants. He waited, he's waited whatever, a year or two, whatever, after he left the Giants to wind up opening up and saying stuff like this. Of course, when he was on playing against the Bills, we got down toward the goal line, and he was in the backfield, a couple plays, like pretending to, lining up as a fullback, running maybe blocking or something like that. And then he got off to that series. It was over. He gets on the sideline. I was like, dude, I'm retired. That's it. So I don't know. I don't know. Is it Dable? Is it the fullback? Is it because he has to block? Is it New York sucks? Is it a combination of everything? Who knows? But obviously, I'm sure he just didn't want to either play for the Giants or he didn't want to play, for Dable. Or maybe I don't know. Who knows? He caught some passes. He caught 50-something passes in 12 games. But he did not ask to come here. We worked out a trade for him, right? So hopefully he'll be happy in Miami. And I hope, I guess, for Miami's sake, I hope they don't put him in the backfield where he has to run and maybe block somebody, because then he might go running on the sideline, take his helmet off and go, like, do it here. I'm retired. So we will have to wait and see. But quite possibly, Plaxico seems to think that maybe Giants in New York maybe were not his cup of tea. Right? Darren Waller's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, provided some details on how the trade to Miami came together and also a few tidbits on what happened with Jonnu Smith. Now, also, I hope Jonnu Smith was not going to be an integral part of their offense. Because, if Waller wanted to retire once, guess what? He might want to retire again. Right? He's been out of the game. He didn't play last year. Right? So he's been out of the game for a while. He missed like the last 5 games, I think it was, or somewhere. Was it the last 5? Or maybe he played. He missed 5 games 2 years ago, 2020. He didn't play at all last year. So for him to come and just want to start playing football, I'll have to wait and see. But hope they traded Smith away. Hopefully he was not going to be an integral part of their offense, because if Waller decides to hang his cleats up and say bye-bye once again, Miami just gets screwed. But first I want to talk about Plaxico here, what he was talking about. Plaxico Burress shares theory on Darren Waller's New York Giants exit. I really honestly believe that. Waller has made a surprise return to the NFL after an unexpected trade saw him become the newest Miami Dolphin tight end. Retirements don't always stick in the NFL. Brett Favre's first retirement infamously lasted just a matter of months. Marshawn Lynch in 2016 retirement was followed by a 2017 comeback. Darren Waller's announced his retirement in 2024, seemingly bringing his career to an end after 9 seasons in the league. It had been speculated about a potential Waller return, but that all changed when the Dolphins pulled off a surprise trade. Waller will now play for Miami in 2025, with the Giants agreeing to a trade following a tight end's decision to return to the NFL. Plaxico Burress shares theory on Darren Waller's New York Giants exit. Waller was a wide receiver during his college days at Georgia Tech, but he did a lot of blocking. You don't go to Georgia Tech and, they run the ball a lot there, okay? But the Baltimore Ravens saw something in him and converted him to a tight end. A suspension saw Waller miss the 2017 season, but Baltimore waived him in September 2018, signing him to a practice squad. The Ravens signed Waller to just 2 months later, and he hasn't looked back. He racked up 2 1,000-plus receiving seasons. Waller recorded 107 receptions and 9 receiving touchdowns in 2020, establishing himself as one of the NFL's very best tight ends. The Raiders traded Waller to the Giants in 2023, less than a year after handing him a huge 3-year, $51 million contract. Waller's time in New York was short and sweet. He recorded 52 catches in 12 games for a total of 552 yards before he decided to hang up his cleats and retire. Now he's 32. Waller's back again. Plaxico Burress believes he knows why the retirement decision was made in the first place. Speaking on Up on Game, I don't know what podcast that is, Burgess suggested that Waller simply didn't want to play for the Giants head coach Brian Daboll. Former Giants receiver Burress noted that Waller was often used as a fullback rather than as a tight end, which just isn't Waller's game. Burress feels Waller just wasn't in a good situation in New York, and he truly believes that Waller's retirement was in part down to not wanting to play for Daboll with the Giants. Came to the Giants and they had him back there playing fullback, said Burress. You're a tight end. You're not built psychologically or mentally as a tight end to be running up in the 2 and 4 hole, taking on middle linebackers and linemen. That's not how we are built as players. I think it had more to do with a lot of things that had going on outside of football as well. And I don't really think he wanted to be here in New York playing for Brian Daboll. I really honestly believe that. It wasn't a good situation. Daniel Jones is a quarterback. They weren't using him as a tight end, which is what they brought him here for. He hated. So, I mean, that's I can understand that, And I said, he did not ask to come here. Right? Waller's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, provided some details on how the trade came together during his weekly appearance on weekly TV spot on a podcast. But Drew said, I got a phone call in the last week of June from Darren, and he said, Drew, I've decided that I want to play again. I miss football. The itch to play, the love of the game is back, and I'd like to play for the Miami Dolphins. Rosenhaus said of his conversation with Waller. Rosenhaus has to say that this about Waller drive to play again. It's his job. That said, this does line up with some of Waller's own comments about considering a comeback if he got to play for current Dolphins offensive coordinator Frank Smith, who was Waller's tight ends coach with the Raiders. In a March interview with former Raider coach John Gruden, Waller laid out only the coaches he would consider making a comeback for. The only 2 people I would listen to, I will say, is you, John Gruden, and Frank Smith, Waller told Gruden. The only 2 people I would hear out and give them my ear. They got sports cards down there, man. Everybody down there runs a 4-3. Yeah, that's true. Waller's commitment to reuniting with Smith should at least inspire some confidence that he's 100% committed and healthy, despite doing numerous interviews this past year about how much football was weighing on him and his health. Tight end mentioned a hospital scare he had in the middle of 2023 season as a reason for stepping away. It was pretty clear I almost just lost my life, he said. Waller said in his YouTube video announcing his retirement last year. I don't know if I really feel like if I would have died, that it would have felt great about how my life was going. Then, of course, Rosenhaus also represents Smith. Rosenhaus' perspective on the odds between Smith and the Dolphins is inherently biased toward his client, but he did make a few interesting remarks on the topic. Rosenhaus said the Dolphins made the decision they were not going to do a new deal for Jonnu and allowed him to seek a trade instead of forcing him to play out the last year of his deal. Rosenhaus added that the Jalen Ramsey from Minka Fitzpatrick swap might not have happened if the Dolphins weren't willing to include Smith. Ah. So, but, I wish the guy nothing but the best. But, I mean, that's quite possible. I mean, he did not ask to come here. And I guess maybe if he just totally 100% despised, I mean, he was not in the backfield 95% of the time. Now, how much he was, I haven't looked. PFF would have his position and all that, the breakdown and all that. I didn't look at that, what I mean? But they're not going to have Darren Waller, playing fullback 95% of the time. That's just stone cold crazy. But apparently the percentage of times that they did have him back there, I guess, was just too much for Darren Waller. So he's got a lot going on up here. Right? I wish him nothing but the best, but there's nothing more evident than that to me anyway. That he's married to Kelsey Plum or whatever, and then about 34 seconds later they're divorced, and then about 25 seconds after that he's putting a video out of him apparently getting stabbed in the back by her, and he's falling down dead on the beach, just laying there on the beach. I guess apparently there was supposed to be a knife in his back. So I mean, you got some. To me, that's that's some issues. You got some issues up there. So, but wish him nothing but the best. But he's Miami's problem right now.